Welcome and thank you for joining us today for our presentation on our TFI 1.9, the school-wide practices used in classroom. I'm Morgan Meehan. I'm a first grade teacher. I'm joined today with some colleagues of mine, our school guidance counselor, and our school PE teacher. And they're kind of on the sidelines here, but they'll be joining me for the Q&A at the end. Um, a little bit about our school. We are from a small town in Maine. Our school is called the McGraw School and it's in Hamden, Maine. We are about 2 hours north of Portland. If you're familiar with Maine, Portland's usually the city that people are familiar with the most. And we have a population of about 8,000 people in our town. The median income is around $112,000. And our school district is comprised of four area towns with a population of around 2,000 students. In our school, we have, well, for our elementary schools, we have two of them. And so within our school, we have 217 students, and we are a pre-K through first grade school. And we've been doing PBIS now for about 5 years in full implementation. We went through a cohort for Tier 1 implementation, and now we're working through a cohort for Tier 2 and 3 implementation. And we're excited about sharing where we've come from and what we're doing. So today, our TFI 1.9 is all about school-wide practices used in the classroom. And the scope of this element is really that teachers will explicitly teach, kind of prompt, review, school-wide expectations, as well as implement school-wide acknowledgments within the classroom and respond to challenging behaviors across all classroom routines. Some of our data sources that we use throughout our implementation process and currently also are our school-wide PBIS website. We have a website that is devoted to all of our PBIS resources and materials. And our school on there houses behavior matrices, booster lessons, where lessons that we should be teaching for all of the different areas of our matrices. And so we have a place where we keep all of that. And so that is a really great spot for us. We also use ODRs or our office disciplinary referrals to help guide us, and behavior logs, as well as walkthrough data. We have a really unique school in that the hallway goes through our classrooms. And so it's a very common practice for people to be walking through our classrooms through the hallways throughout the whole day. And so it's very easy to collect that kind of walkthrough data without a teacher feeling pressure or any of that. You can just kind of get a sense of what's going on in every classroom, which is amazing. Um, so when we start making our school-wide expectations, we think about making them very clear, concise, and consistent. And this follows through into the classroom. This here is an example of a poster that we have hanging in our hallway. It highlights some of our main areas of we want to be safe, we want to be responsible and honest, and we want to be respectful and kind. And throughout our building, it shows, always at McGraw. So wherever they are throughout our building, this is how they should behave when they're arriving at school. And as you look down through, there's different common areas that this applies to. When we're thinking about the clear expectations, we try to keep it very simple and we always word them in a positive way. We want to say what the expectation is in that positive phrasing as opposed to what they shouldn't be doing. So I will use kind words is being respectful and kind instead of I will not say unkind words. So we always try and always put those in a positive light. Keeping it concise is important too. We work with a lot of littles. Pre-K to 1 is a very young age. And so making sure that we're getting our point across, it's clear, it's quick, and they're going to understand it is very important. So we try and use short, simple phrases to get that point across. And consistency is probably one of our biggest strengths and one of the areas where you really have to be successful, what you really have to focus on to be successful. If your whole building is being consistent with following these kind of behavior matrices, then your whole school kind of falls in line and everybody's doing their jobs. And it doesn't matter which adult in the building is passing by or working with them, they know this is what my job is, how I can be safe, be responsible and honest, and respectful and kind. And so it does seem like it's kind of repetitive, but I always go over my behavior matrices every morning, even on day 143 or 45, wherever we're at. We went over them this morning as they arrived at school. We have a meeting on the rug matrice where we talk about what their expectations are. And even if you feel like it's repetitive and you might get bored with it, it is so important to consistently be going over those expectations because the more they hear it, the more it's ingrained in them, and then things flow much better. I have some more examples of some of our expectations a little closer up. So you can see we have these also hanging in our hallways and in our cafeteria. So always at McGraw is a very important one for us. It helps be utilized throughout the whole school. And so that's one that you can take in to your classrooms. You can do it in the hallway. You can have it at the playground, in the cafeteria, wherever you need it. And that's really where we start. We start with those school-wide behavior matrices, and then we build from there to strengthen our classroom matrices. So that is a little example for you. So why do we love it? Well, I already mentioned the word consistency, but it is so important for our staff to all be on the same page in order for all of our students, regardless of if they are in pre-K or first grade, to understand what the rules and expectations are at our school. So with that consistency, every adult and child in our building knows the expectations from the cafeteria staff to the office staff to the ed techs, paraprofessionals to the specialist teachers and the classroom teachers. We're all using the same language so that whenever our students are at any point in the building, they are able to really understand what their expectations are. And accountability. This isn't only for students, this is also for our staff too. The accountability of students understanding their behavior and knowing the expectations, then they are able, if they have a moment where they aren't following expectations and they do get an ODR, they're able to go through that restorative process easier because they know what the expectations at our school are and they know where they faltered. And so having that accountability piece for them, they're able to process through that as well in an easier way. And they're very open to being vulnerable in that situation and sharing and how they can do better. Also, our adults in the building are all on the same page, which I can't reiterate enough. But in order for this to work, you've got to have all your adults buying into it. And so all of our adults are working with the same goal in mind. And so that helps us. We also love it because it's kid friendly, right? We can increase the students' engagement in it because they take part in helping us each year make our matrices within our classrooms. And so when they are a part of making those matrices, they are a part of really buying into it themselves, right? If I hand them a rule book and all these things that they need to do, then they're not going to buy in as much. But when I sit down with them and I say, okay, guys, when we're sitting on the rug, how can we be safe, right? How can we be responsible? How can we be respectful? And we spend the first few weeks of school really talking about this before we make those matrices in our classrooms. But the school-wide ones we have to use on those first few weeks, and then we build from there. So what does it take to kind of pull this into place? So in order for this to be successful, you really, and I'm going to say that word buy-in again, you really need buy-in by the majority of your staff. Sometimes it feels like not everybody's going to be on board. And we struggled at the beginning of our implementation to get everybody on board, right? Not everybody's going to jump right in and say, this is a great idea, I love it. But over time, they were able to see the small practices that were put into place throughout our building, and then they were able to get that buy-in, right? They were like, oh, wow, look at how this is working in this room, and look at how this is going here. So it took us several years to get to this place of being mostly 100% buy-in, and it's great because once you have that buy-in and that commitment, then you are able to really bolster your behavior in your school to make it, really a great place. And so um, it's really important that we take our time in doing this as well. It's not something that we created overnight. We are in five years now, and we even had time before that where we were dabbling in it a little bit. But 5 years of hard work. And so when it's not fully implemented after year one, that was okay with us. We continued on and we didn't expect everybody to do everything all at once. We wanted them to make a behavior. If you can hear our announcements, I apologize. It's time for dismissal here. Um, so if we wanted to get somebody to have that buy-in, we would just have them make a couple of matrices in their classroom, right? Just one matrice, focus on one and do it well, and then build from there. So these are all areas where, we are able to grow our staff in order for them to take part in it. And then once you have your staff taking part, then the students can really see the benefit of it and they jump right on board. And so that's a great, great feeling. So some of the impacts that we have seen since we started fully implementing is that over the last 5 years, we have a safer school environment, and that is huge, right? We want our kids to come to school every day and feel safe coming here. And because our students know and understand the importance of following those expectations that are laid out very clear, very consistent, they know how to come to school and they know how we come to school and what our job is when we come to school and how to be safe and how to be responsible and respectful. And so those are very important pieces for us. Also, the overall feeling in our building is a feeling of welcoming. It's an inviting culture. Our guest teachers or substitutes or volunteers come in and they really always give us praise on how well our students are behaved, and they lean it back on the fact that our expectations are so clear and our routines are in place, and they really understand what is expected of them, regardless of who's in front of them. Um, it also has given us regulated students and teachers, and sometimes that can feel like a big thing that we're getting because our students are able to go into a classroom and understand those matrices and what they're being asked of. And so it creates a learning environment where everybody is able to learn and teach and work, and they really are more regulated, and it creates that better experience. Now, I'm not saying we're 100% regulated all the time, right? Obviously, we work with little kiddos, but for the most part, we're seeing a really good jump in that. So where are we? So we want to be completely honest. In when we scored ourselves on our TFI, we were at a 3. We are not at a 4 for this, and we feel okay with that, right? We are still working, and our goal is to constantly be reviewing, meeting, and working on getting better. And we have plans in place on how we can make those gains and how we can take those steps. So it's always good to have a dedicated plan. And so our goal is to reach that 4 on the TFI scale. And currently we're at a 3 and we are in full implementation and it's going really well for us. But we have some places where we can work on and get to that 4. So if you're just getting started with this, our recommendations are, just like you have to build routines in the classroom, you have to start with your school-wide staff culture and build from there. Like I said, it took us 5 years of really working on all of these pieces. coming together to make it really what it is today. So you want to come up with your core values as your school, right? Ours are be safe, be responsible and honest, be respectful and kind. That's our core values, and we go off from that. We want to start small and focus on, like, you have that school-wide acknowledgement system, and then make a behavior matrice for your whole school. For example, always at McGraw, we have that. And then ask classroom teachers to start by making one or two matrices as well to get that buy-in from them. As we're growing and getting better, these are some things that we do all the time, revisiting expectations with staff frequently, right? Sometimes we get complacent in what we're doing. And so when we, as a PBIS team, are going over different things, we are constantly reminding our staff what can help them and where they should be going with their students in this area. We also have been using self-assessments with staff. We don't want them to feel like we are scoring them for anything that they're doing, but we've been giving them some tools to score themselves. And that's really helpful because, especially, when you come back in January, or when you come back from a school vacation, it's so important for staff to also be revisiting the PBIS model and to self-assess themselves. How am I doing on this? Where can I be better? And then also non-negotiables. We have non-negotiables in our school that are what every classroom has to have. A calm corner, 1 to 2 matrices within the first month of school. These are important so that staff is getting on board and getting going with it, but not overwhelming. We also recommend creating a PBIS hub. I have shared our website, and if I have time, I'll click into it really quickly. But our PBIS hub is a hub where we keep all of our materials. I just had a little example of a paw power here, positive behavior referral into the office. Our students love getting these. They get to go to the office and have a positive interaction with our school principal. And then they get their picture taken, and they get put on a bulletin board in the hallway and at during our monthly school assemblies. We have a book vending machine in our building, and they get their name put in to possibly win a book token. So, paw power referral, a positive referral, is a really great way to kind of boost that. We also do a McGraw Paw, which is a sticker. That's our school-wide acknowledgement system. And it just is just a little sticker that they can earn. Any staff in our building can give them out to students. Any staff in our building is encouraged to give out at least 7 weekly, correct? I give out a lot daily, 7 daily. So it's important to our staff to be acknowledging our students' positive behaviors. Um, so every morning on our school announcements, our principal will say, Rory reminds us, and most classes or some classes might have their kids say these core values with our principal. And so every day my kiddos say, Rory reminds us to be safe, be responsible and honest, be respectful and kind, and then she'll say, make it a great day, McGraw. So that's how she kind of ends her announcements. And that's where we go from there. And our kiddos start the day on a positive note. This here is a link to our PBIS website. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to click into it, but if there's not a whole lot of questions, then I can kind of explore it with you. But I would love to open up the floor if anybody has any questions that we could answer. Let's see. Oh, I'm looking in the, um, let's see. Do you use these posters across your district with the higher buildings? If so, do the posters use the same language? That's a really great question. So, I think our elementary schools are in a longer implementation period than some of our other buildings. So I do think our other elementary school does also use these types of posters. And I think as they get older, I'm not sure if they're in those buildings currently, but I know some of our other buildings are in the tier one process. So where we're in tier two, we've had more time. And so we were able to, we just got these posters created last summer. So these are new for us. Before that, we had handmade ones that we wrote with a marker, pen, took pictures. And so we did it pen and paper. And then we were able, once our school was fully implemented and fully doing a great job, we made the posters. And if anyone wants to unmute to ask a question, feel free. Let me see if I can grab that link real quickly. Let's see here. Um, okay. I think I can click on it. All right. Can you see it says school-wide expectations? Okay, perfect. So this is our website that we use. Across the top, it has different areas. So we have our McGraw matrices here. Individual area matrices are just kind of like the printable versions of those posters that you saw that we can share and use in different areas. We have these all on binder rings for substitutes who come into our buildings. Every classroom has them. Also, we have a blank classroom matrice here. So we all use the same. It looks very similar. The paw is on there. That's our kind of go-to symbol for our school. And then these are some ideas that you could make them for that we like to give to our teachers. And so we have that. We have some acknowledgement systems. Here's an example of our McGraw paw, and the respectful also has an R on it, but it didn't show up on there. And so this is just kind of like, so if a new teacher were to come in, they could go to this website and see what is the McGraw paw? Why do we use it? Where, who, what, all the questions, and it's right here. We have clear behavior definition. So we have some the behavior and if it's an admin managed or a staff managed. So this is available for all of our staff as well on here. We also have something we call a behavior flow chart. So we have the OOPS chart, which the classroom teachers have access to, and they're able to kind of use that as a visual with students. And then again, staff managed, admin managed behaviors. We also have lessons that we've linked in for every area. So we could click on here and we have our lessons for always at McGraw, expected versus unexpected behaviors. And I just actually revisited that one in February when we came back we have a February vacation in Maine. So I was able to revisit that. During our morning meeting time throughout a week. And so there's lots of different booster lessons here that teachers can use. And then we just have some resources and our tier two referral form here. So this is basically what our school-wide website is. Let me see here. How long are the Oh, I'm not sure about how long all the videos are available. Jennifer, do you know how long the videos will be available?
I am texting for confirmation right now
Okay.
before I commit to an answer.
Okay. Um, I'm not. Oh, let me see if I can share that link. Public. Okay. Are you sure?
No.
I'm not sure if our website is a public site. We're gonna check on that for you. We would love to share it with you, but I just want to make sure before I take that share and do that. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. There we go. We're also happy to take any other questions that you may have. We're happy to share our story with you. We've really found a lot of success in our PBIS journey. And like I said, it was very much a labor of love. We really put our hearts into it. So. Yes, the school website is great. It's so handy. Our principal has it linked in her weekly update so that teachers have quick access to it. If they forget about it, we can remind them about it, and then they're able to jump right on and grab what they need out of there. So having a hub for everything is a really great thing. I don't think it is on our public site, so I apologize. I'm not. Um, I don't feel comfortable being the one to share that if that's understandable.
Hi, Morgan. You guys have done such amazing work. And I'm so excited to see you here. I'm curious about how staff responded to bringing, the non-negotiables, so to speak, of bringing school-wide expectations into their classrooms and developing classroom matrices. And like, what were some of the ways you garnered engagement there?
I think for our school, it wasn't 100% at first, right? We had these non-negotiables, and people kind of slowly implemented, calm corners that maybe were just like a spot, like on the corner of a desk, instead of really making it an actual calm space. And so I think over time, with encouragement and seeing what other people were doing, I think that was a big buy-in moment. Was Well, we have a very welcoming community of teachers in our building. And like I said, our hallways are very open and you can just walk through. So when teachers were walking through and seeing other teachers' materials, then I definitely saw more taking a buy-in on that calm corner. As far as the behavior matrices go, I think we as a staff, before school started 1 year, did come up with the Always at McGraw. And so we did the activity as a staff before we asked the staff to do it with teachers. And I think that was a big learning point for them and help teachers see how they could implement it in their classroom. And I think just having them really keep it basic, like sitting on the rug, meeting on the rug, or, like working independently, really helped kind of get them in the flow of it. And, it's very helpful. And I think once they started it, they could see how that could be beneficial. Oh, and it looks like the postings will be available Friday and through at least a month on the platform. Well, we are just about out of time. We really appreciate all of you joining us today. We love championing our school. Our school is amazing, and the staff here has done so much great work. This morning, I was sharing with my kiddos how nervous I was to share, but I was like, I feel so lucky to be able to share with the world how amazing our school is. And so they were super excited about it too. They were like, wow, our school is awesome. So we really, have done, our staff has done an outstanding job. And if you take it slow and do it little at a time, it comes around. So thank you so much for the opportunity to share our story with you. And I hope that you all have a fabulous afternoon.